cards that Mai Valentine used throughout the entirety of the Yu-Gi-Oh anime. Now, how many of those cards became full-fledged decks? For example, Yugi has over 20 decks in the real world now that have evolved from individual cards from his original anime deck. Magnet Warrior deck, Poker Knight deck, Dark Magician deck, Dark Magician Girl deck, Chimera deck, and the list goes on. Yugi's original anime deck, nowadays, it's a one-deck army, I guess. Kaiba and Joey, the second and third most important characters in the show, have about 5 to 7 distinct decks that have evolved from their anime deck. So then I ask, Mai Valentine, arguably the fourth most important character duelist of the main group of characters. How many decks does she have now in the real world based on her anime deck? Well, 2. And honestly, it's kind of ironic. Yugi, Joey, and Kaiba all played kind of mishmash decks. They just had random cards. There wasn't that much synergy between them all. Mai Valentine, Amazoness deck, Harpy Lady deck, and in both of them, she played a full Harpy and Amazoness deck, which was really cool to see. But it was a bit too ahead of its time. Because of this, since her decks were technically already complete themes, Konami hasn't really spun them off into more decks. Basically, we would get support for this and support for this back in the day and little bits every now and then. And that's kind of all we got. Mai only got 2 decks, unfortunately. So I've kind of spoiled how many decks that she has, but we might as well go through both of them, see what she played throughout the course of the series, and maybe there's some other decks that I might have missed. Maybe, or maybe not. Let's take a look. Harpy Lady deck. During Season 1 of the Duelist Kingdom tournament, Mai Valentine played an almost pure Harpy Lady deck. Her deck included cards like a playset of the original Harpy Lady. When all 3 would hit the field at the same time, they would become the Harpy Lady Sisters. There was also Harpy's Pet Dragon and the Harpy support cards, Elegant Egotist, Cyber Shield, Rose Whip, and of course, Harpy's Feather Duster. Now, Mai actually abandons the Harpy Ladies for Season 2, but if we skip all the way to Season 3 or 4, whenever the Orichalcos arc was, well, we get upgrades of the Harpy Ladies and some new support. She would play an improved version of the Harpy Ladies called Cyber Harpy Lady, as well as new support cards like Harpy Lady Phoenix Formation and Harpy Lady Sparrow Formation, as well as the most broken card in the real world, Harpy's Featherstorm. It's very different in the real world compared to the anime. In the real world, it's so broken that people believe because of this card, this is why, spoilers, Harpies don't have that much real world support than you would think they have, considering how popular the Harpy Ladies and Mai Valentine is. So this thing is broken. This probably should be banned if Harpies ever became meta. It's disgusting. Speaking of the real world, we of course have all of these cards, with Harpy's Feather Duster being a staple and Harpy's Featherstorm being absolutely broken. However, the Harpy Ladies would get support in homage to Mai. Cards like Harpy Lady Perfumer, Harpy Lady Channeler, Harpy Lady Oracle, and Harpy Lady Harpist. Many of these cards are references to Mai's aroma strategy that she used in the first season, where she sprayed all her cards with perfume so that she could smell the different cards and pretend she had a foresight into what cards she was about to draw. Fun fact, I actually made a video about this and I proved it couldn't really be done. The smells blend together. Harpy Ladies would also get new upgraded extra deck monsters, such as Harpy Conductor, Cyber / Harpy, and Harpy's Pet Phantasmal Dragon. Even the iconic Harpy's Feather Duster would get a third alternate artwork with an actual Harpy feather dustering on the artwork. And unfortunately, this is kind of all we have for the Harpy Ladies. Considering that Mai is as popular and as big of a character as Yugi, Kaiba, and Joey, technically, it just seems like a shame that her most iconic deck has not really that much support. And the reason I know they're under-supported is because I made an archetype video on the Harpies 6 years ago, and in those 6 years, they've had 2 new cards. Cyber / Harpy Lady and Harpy's Pet Dragon Fearsome Fire Blast. 2 new cards in 6 years? Woofed. Why do you think this is? Do you think Harpies are just not that popular? It's an anime girl deck, technically, which I know Konami likes to make more cards of. Is it Harpy's Featherstorm being a little bit too toxic that could hurt the deck? I guess you just ban this. So I was curious. Why don't we see more of the Harpy Ladies? However, this isn't the only deck that Mai Valentine played. She also played Amazoness deck. Now, during the Battle City tournament, Mai mixed things up and played a almost purely Amazoness deck instead of a Harpy Lady deck. She used Amazoness monsters like Amazoness Fighter, Amazoness Swordswoman, Amazoness Chainmaster, and the Unfriendly Amazon. She also played support cards like Amazoness Spellcaster, Amazoness Archers, and Dramatic Rescue. Now, what's quite interesting about the Amazoness deck she played as opposed to the Harpy Lady deck she played the Harpies more in more seasons. However, the Amazonesses, I would say, were played in the most popular season of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters show, the Battle City Tournament. While not by much more, the Amazoness deck does have more cards than the Harpy Lady deck, and it has a couple more modern cards compared to the Harpy Lady deck. In fact, outside of the original series, during Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, we had another character use the Amazoness deck, Tanya, who was a dual monster transformed into a human, specifically Amazoness Tiger. She would play other new Amazoness cards like Blowpiper, Paladin, and new support cards like Amazoness Arena, Call, Charm, and Pride of Tribe. And if you thought, uh-oh, Tanya's stealing a little bit of Mai Valentine's thunder, now who's the true owner of the Amazoness deck? Well, there's another two characters that also used Amazoness in the anime. During Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, Grace and Gloria, a tag team dueling sisters, also used them. Their Amazoness deck included cards like Amazoness Spy, Queen, new fusion cards like Amazoness Empress and Amazoness Pet Liger, and new support cards like Amazoness Magic Mirror, Hall, Substitution, and Curse of Mirror. And we can't forget Amazoness Hot Spring, which was famously censored. Honestly, it's safe to say the Amazoness cards have been supported more than the Harpy Ladies. In fact, with Tanya's Tiger form being a part of the archetype, and Grace and Gloria also getting their own Pendulum cards, Gold Whip Master and Silver Sword Master, along with their boss monsters getting upgraded forms, Augusta and Liger King, they've kind of been stolen from Mai. So really, while Mai was the progenitor to the users of the Amazoness deck, I would say probably Grace and Gloria fit more in an Amazoness person I would think of when you think of their wielder. But okay, we have Harpies and we have Amazoness for Mai. Was there any other cards that have spun off into other decks in the real world? Well, outside of Amazoness and Harpies, Mai only played a few non-archetypal cards. In Season 1, she used Dark Witch. This monster, while it didn't get its own deck, does have a counterpart called Lamoon, and that monster did get a modern pendulum form called Pendulamoon. But that's not really part of an archetype. However, Dark Witch is in the artwork of a card called Dark Contract with the Witch. Meaning, if you really squint your eyes, Dark Witch is technically the progenitor to the DDD archetype, meaning that Mai Valentine's third deck is a DDD deck. You never thought I'd make that connection, and I wouldn't actually class that. That doesn't really count. Just because something's in the artwork, it doesn't really mean that. So there's another card. In Season 2, she also played another witch, which was Dynamis, the Dark Witch, which obviously doesn't have its own deck, but that's two witch cards that Mai has played in each of the seasons. So if you're going to give her a third deck, maybe a witch-themed deck. I think I read somewhere that these might be representative of Taya Gardner, because she played like a fairy deck, and these are fairy witches, I guess. So I don't know. Could be a thing. And in terms of support cards she used, there was other things like Shadow of Eyes, Elf's Light, and Mirror Wall. Mirror Wall could be a thing because I distinctly remember in the anime in the first season how Mai said this was a really rare card because trap cards, while they existed in the first season, continuous trap cards were really rare. And you don't realize how broken this was in the anime because in the anime, there was no maintenance cost for it. Essentially, when it was on the field, it would just always halve the attack of opponents attacking monsters. You didn't have to pay 2,000 life points every single turn, which is, wow, so broken. So to answer the question I posed at the start, how many decks has Mai Valentine had spin off into the real world based on her individual cards that she played in the anime? 2. Amazoness and Harpy Lady. Do you think Mai deserves more? Is there any other kind of deck you could spin off based on maybe a duel she played in the anime? Because they tend to do that sometimes. They'll have a duel become sort of an archetype, or they'll revamp all of her cards into a single united archetype like the Shining Sarcophagus deck for Yugi. Let me know your thoughts and theories down below. I'd love to see if you'd want more Mai support. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Check out one of my other videos on this subject if you fancy. But if not, no worries, and catch you later. Bye everyone.